Welcome to Talk Soup. I'm your host, Michelle. Today we have a special guest all the way from North Carolina, Mrs. Lauren Vance. Over the past year, Mrs. Vance has been participating in a program called Prepare Residency. The Prepare Residency program allows new and upcoming teachers to work towards earning a master's degree in elementary education while simultaneously completing a student teaching residency. Today, she's going to talk to us about the benefits of the Prepare program, what she's learned during her student teaching experience, and why it's important to incorporate STEM learning in the classroom. Let's all welcome Ms. Vance to the show. Hi, everyone, and thanks, Michelle. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're happy to have you, Lauren. So how about you start off by telling us a little bit about your experience with the Prepare program? Wow, what can I say? The Prepare program has been amazing. I did not expect to learn so much in such a short period of time, but I am so glad that I decided to take this opportunity and pursue my degree and go along with this program because it's been so beneficial for me. The thing that makes Prepare so unique is that the grant program allows participants to study and student teach while getting paid. The grant allows participants to work as teacher assistants for an entire school year, which is amazing because the hands-on experience really makes a huge difference. So here's how it works. Each resident is assigned a mentor teacher, and we work with that mentor teacher to learn the ins and outs of how to run a classroom, for example, classroom management, curriculum, and things of that nature. Our mentor teacher is there with us. Well, at least mine was because I worked as a teacher assistant. So my mentor teacher was there with me the entire time. I was able to learn from her. I was able to watch her and see how she moves. And I was able to learn a lot just by watching. And when it was my turn, I felt a lot more comfortable because I had already been in the classroom for so long. Wow, that does sound pretty amazing. So you mentioned that you worked as a teacher assistant. Can you go into a little more detail about that? What were your responsibilities? What did you do? How did you interact with the students? Can you give us some more information about that? Sure, no problem. So at the beginning of the school year, I spent a lot of my time observing my mentor teacher and asking questions. So my mentor teacher and we set up meetings twice a week. And during these meetings, we would have a Q&A session. So basically, anytime something happened throughout the school day, I would get a sticky note and I would write down any questions that I had or any concerns. And during our Q&A sessions, we would sit down and she would explain things to me and, address any of my concerns. And I learned a lot from that in particular. Another thing that I appreciate about being a TA is that it gave me the experience to do the clerical side because, I was in kindergarten and kindergarten's teachers, they have a teacher assistant, but not all grades have teacher assistants. So if I were to get a job as, say, a first or second grade teacher, I would have to not only teach my students, but I would have to do all the clerical things that teacher assistants do as well. So I appreciate being exposed to that. I appreciate the experience that I got from that. You also asked how I interacted with the children. Well, I interacted with the children the same way a regular teacher would. I was there with them, to supervise behaviors. I assisted with guided reading, which is a time during the day where we have different groups of students and they work on reading. So I basically was teaching them how to read along with the teacher. I pretty much was hands-on with the students just as much as the teacher was. It was a really, really awesome experience. Awesome. Okay, now if there was one thing that you had to say that you took from this experience as a teacher assistant, what would it be? The biggest thing that you would say stood out the most during your experience? That's a good question. Well, if I had to choose one thing, I would say teaching students how to read. I've always had a little bit of self-doubt, I'm not going to lie. I've always been nervous, just with the idea of being the one responsible to teach a child something that important, something that they're going to use for the rest of their lives. That's kind of scared me a little bit. And, that's kind of something that stopped me in the past from pursuing my dream as a teacher. But I found it to be very different. It wasn't scary at all when I got in there and I actually started doing it. And when I saw how my mentor teacher did it, it was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. For example, let me give you an example. So when we first start teaching students to read, we start off with the alphabets, start off with a couple of letters, maybe A and B. And we just teach them that for a couple of days. We just, reiterate, this is A, this is B. Okay. Then, we also show them the sounds that the letters make. So for instance, we'll hold up a flashcard with the letter A and the picture of an apple on it. And we'll say A, apple, A. Then B, bat, B. So we go over all the letter sounds and we just keep just drilling it in their heads, just over and over and over until it just kind of comes natural, And then we move on to the hard stuff. And it's amazing to me. Like, I feel so accomplished and I feel so proud of myself and I feel so proud of my students. But just knowing that I'm responsible for teaching someone to read, a skill that we're going to need throughout our entire lives, it just makes me so happy. Wow, that's wonderful. You sound so passionate. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the STEM aspect of the program. You mentioned to me before the show that the Prepare program has exposed you to STEM. Can you share a little bit about what you've learned? Absolutely. So for those that don't know, STEM is an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and math. STEM is important in education because it provides hands-on experience for students, which makes learning fun. I learned that it's especially important to incorporate STEM education with younger students because it helps to keep them engaged. STEM education is not just based on science, technology, engineering, and math concepts. STEM is used to teach and help students develop real-world skills. As teachers, we're faced with challenges when it comes to incorporating concepts that are not in the curriculum. But I look at it this way. Teaching is like a form of art. For example, an artist might be given a specific theme to work with. Let's say he has to paint a mural. Now it's up to that artist to make it his own and to put his own spin on it. It's the same thing with teaching. We have to be creative. We have to make our lessons creative because students don't learn from a script. With that being said, we must find clever ways to implement STEM into our curriculum. Sounds great. Well, do you think you can give us an example of what you mean by incorporating STEM into the curriculum? Definitely. So when I was doing my student teaching, the students were learning about farm animals. So each day we would do a different animal, pigs, chickens, and one day we had to do cows. So my professor, Dr. Disler, she came to the class to do a STEM lesson with my students. So she starts the lesson off by explaining the different types of cows, for example, a beef cow and the dairy cow. Then she went on to explain how cow's milk must go through a process before it's safe to drink. Now keep in mind, all of this is part of the curriculum, but she incorporated STEM into the lesson by conducting an experiment using cow's milk, dish soap, and food coloring to demonstrate how pasteurization works. I was so amazed by how engaged the students were. They loved it. They were just all into it. And that's when I truly understood the importance of incorporating STEM into the classroom. Wow, that sounds really interesting. I wish I could have been there to see that. So what's the STEM in a box? You talked to me a little bit about it briefly. I would love to hear about that. Okay, so normally over the summer, students will come to STEM camp. And during STEM camp, the students would conduct different STEM-based experiments, excuse me. But due to COVID-19, we were unable to conduct the camp. So Dr. Disler came up with the idea of STEM Camp in a Box. So basically, my classmates and I made videos and provided step-by-step directions to students on how to conduct their experiments, as well as how to record their findings. I learned a lot from the STEM Camp in a Box training. It was very helpful to learn about the experiments beforehand, and I'm super excited because we even received a box full of goodies to use in our own classroom. I can't wait for school to be back in session so I can use all of the knowledge that I've gained from this amazing experience. Wow, that was amazing. You sound like you really did learn a lot from this program. And I really am glad that you decided to come and tell us about it. And I appreciate you being here. Maybe, your story might influence someone else to go out and pursue a teaching degree. So again, we appreciate you coming out. It's been fun. And I appreciate you having me. Thanks for letting me tell my story.